county because I took one of our neighbors.
Yeah. That's a pretty top, Ruth. Where did you get that?
I got it at
Marshall's? It's, oh, Kmart? Yeah. That's nice. I like that.
What do you think about mine?
I think by that.
It's very blue.
Welcome back.
I think I left my phone home.
Good
Phone
evening.
at home.
Good evening.
And at this point, I honestly don't care if I really don't. I am
You
so
worked hard for
fed
it.
up for this. I'm so fed up with this
Oh,
you've been
no.
putting up with.
Yeah.
That I just, it would
I
be,
can
it would be a
understand.
relief. I'm hoping you win. I hope Audrey Denny wins. But I really
We're still
Kid, you're still on here for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Like I was
I am just so.
So, does anybody know?
Bill, don't make me come over there.
No,
No?
I don't know if she's going to be here. Or not. I really don't care.
I know, but
It's better when
but
she
it's
doesn't
5:30.
come.
It's 5:30 is what I'm saying. Mr. Lando. It's the mayor here. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular Oroville City Council meeting. Okay, I figured she would.
Welcome, everybody, to the Oroville City Council meeting. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Berry,
Here.
Councilmember Del Rosario,
Yes.
Councilmember Draper, Councilmember Hatley, Councilmember Thompson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Goodson,
Here.
Mayor Delmeyer.
Here. We will convene to close session.
I passed that on. Thank you, sir.
They do.
He had a
but-
calf, but people write him in, it's interesting. All sorts of things.
I just checked, there's nothing up yet. Usually after the polls close, they post the mail-in ballots that they had.
Yeah, it said in the
So-
paper today that it'd be at 8:15.
Yeah.
Have those,
Yep, usually they wait till after the
but a
polls
lot of people
close.
didn't send them in. I know people that mailed them today. I said, why don't you take them over and drop them off?
Right?
Oh, well, we're gonna mail them. We have until midnight to mail them.
Yeah, but then it just sets the county back.
They
Exactly.
have to be postmarked by.
Yeah.
So if they move to midnight, the rest of the
No, they're mailed them today, but.
Yeah, but it's still, you know,
But I
it just
said, why
sets
don't
the
you just
county.
go over there and put it in the box?
Yeah, all you have to do is drive right up and stick it in.
Yeah.
I got a text message from Ricky Gabriel asking me if I wanted some mobile sign, and I'm like, what'd you have in mind? And he sends me this picture of this guy that's got one of his signs that the guy stole
Isn't that cute?
and
Oh,
put
yeah.
it in his window that was broken.
Sideways.
Sideways. And I'm
Someone
like,
suggests-
he goes, I don't know whether to be angry or happy about the guy, you know? And I said, well,
Somebody suggested he have him put one in the other window, but put it upright.
well, yeah,
I have never yet seen or met Ricky Gabriel.
he was here last meeting.
Was he seen it?
He was
Sitting back here
over
somewhere.
yonder. So, kind of like, who was the hemstock that ran last year?
Oh, I didn't know there was one.
There was a him-
Brad's running now this
Well,
year.
he's running for water
For
guy,
water.
but no, there was a hemstock that was running,
And he never came
but
to.
never came to anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who he was.
No, I didn't either. Was it Clay?
Clay.
So we had, what, 3 forums last year, or 2 years ago? 2? And then both of those he wasn't
Yeah,
there.
he didn't come to either one. So, you know, and, well, same way with Ricky, we had the thing down at the church.
And then there was
then
the thing in
candidate
Purple
form.
Line, and there was the real estate people hosted.
Yeah, yeah. He
They had a
come to
tag
any of
for
them.
him, but he didn't
He
show up.
showed up for the real estate one for.
Did he find any?
Yeah.
Oh,
For like
okay.
2
The
seconds.
tag
Yeah.
was still there, so I still don't know who he is.
He didn't even get his button. I seen him though. He was there for 2 seconds, walked in the door, looked around, but.
Yeah. Uh-oh, there's trouble.
Yeah. What time does it start?
Well, it started at 4:30.
Yeah.
Official meeting starts, or open meeting starts at 5.
Wow. Starting early.
Well, they figured they'd give you time to get here and pick all your choices that you want to talk about.
Remember what it was, so it's all right. You lucked out.
I was thinking it started at 6.
No, they started early. I'm gonna guess they started early so they could go to their election night party.
We never did before. I remember getting out on an election.
Midnight.
10:30 or 11.
Yep.
Man, didn't even have time
Everybody
to
else
go
was
vote.
at the party.
Right.
We'll go vote. You got a half hour.
You're surely brightly colored today.
Absolutely.
You haven't voted yet?
No.
How are you, Mr. Miller?
What's wrong?
Just fine.
Close at 8, you better go.
They
Go.
close at 8?
Yeah, you got a half hour.
20 minutes. I don't want to miss the council meeting.
Oh, you can walk right in there and be done.
Yeah? All right. I'll
You
be
wanna,
right back.
you wanna
You
fly?
want me to if you go there, you have to go provisional if you're not
Yeah, that's right.
scheduled to.
Well, that's if you're not registered.
And I know I was talking. Well, no, if you're out of your
Area.
precinct,
Yeah.
you gotta vote provisional also.
I don't know where he lives.
I don't either.
I don't know what area.
Yeah, because I asked him if he'd sign my papers, and he said he didn't live in the city. So yeah. Interesting. I know Candy was at the Rotary meeting today,
Oh,
and she said they were tons and tons of provisionals this year.
really? So all that stuff hangs it up.
Yep.
The absentees, the provisionals,
Yep.
they're,
I'll tell you something.
I forgot your book. Doggone it. I'm sorry.
When I went in to vote this morning, the guy at Canvas was saying, well, I didn't get my absentee ballot. And a couple, elderly couple that live a block away from me told the canvassers on Sunday that and you know, never thought about ballot until the canvassers were coming and talking about voting and realized that he didn't get his ballot. So I followed him and gave him on Monday morning, I gave him the number of the election office.
No, I did not.
Oh, walk them out.
Thank you. Oh, interesting, because
I know somebody that lives downtown and they received two identical ballots, both with their name on it, in the same envelope.
That was Doug's call. That wasn't the Republicans' call.
I know.
The Republicans did theirs, and then they did Doug's call for them. I had questions about that, so I called.
yeah,
So that's
and,
interesting.
and,
She's expecting the whole
and
family.
Eric, I think, is who the three of them back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
kinda,
The country's gonna go that way pretty
I've been
much.
there for those guys. Every
But,
time they come and
yeah,
scout
they're
the
obviously
counter
they're not-
meetings up, they
Something's
heard.
wrong over there, they're not taking care of
So I
things,
sent them a,
which has been the case for many years.
I thought it was the Republicans. So I heard, yeah, they explained it to me that they
yeah,
did theirs,
it was,
and then they did Doug's.
then, yeah. So, yeah, I'm gonna, I
You're not
sent
sitting
them
in your
all,
normal place.
little emails and said,
That's okay.
no, I didn't, I said,
You don't mind
I
staring
wish
at
you
the
a
back
lot of
of my
luck. I
head?
did vote for him. I wish him a lot of luck.
You were talking about the mailing ballots, isn't that what you do?
I'm not,
Yeah, I think so. There are several states, I believe, that do total mail-in ballots.
I didn't put that little, even though you get. Yeah.
careful what we say. We just have to be. I mean, what's on the agenda that's so important? Oh, I hope so. Because it's not the Chinese artifact. You know? Isn't that crazy? I just need to separate this. Oh, trust me, this is the last day. It is for the ponytail. Yes, I decided that months ago. Oh, I already bought it. No more ponytail. This is the last time you'll see me in a ponytail. Huh? Straight. Yeah, it's time. The trademark is over. To where? Mine's at home. This one's yours.
Welcome everybody to the Oroville City Council meeting, November 6th, 2018. It's voting day. I hope everybody voted. I was notified that somebody went to drop off their ballot and they were out of I voted stickers. I have 3, but I left them at home. And they aren't all mine. No, dropped off some ballots. So, all right. Is there any youngsters out there that would like to come up and help with the Pledge of Allegiance? I don't see any. Any? All right. Let's stand. Let's stand for the pledge. I think the flag needs to go back down there. But salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one proclamation to present this evening, and I would like to know if anybody is here for the homeless youth. Anybody? Reading of the proclamation. I will go ahead and read the proclamation and we'll get that delivered to them. All right, the City of Oroville, it's a proclamation recognizing November 2018 as the Homeless and Runaway Youth Month. Whereas according to the 2017 Homeless Point-in-Time Census and Survey Report, 8% of the homeless are families and 6% are youth without adults, equating to approximately 325 homeless youths in Butte County. Whereas natural disasters and a lack of affordable housing have exacerbated youth homelessness across rural California. Whereas due to the lack of stable housing, homeless youths face great difficulty in accessing food, clothing, adequate and appropriate medical care, and school, reducing the likelihood of successful graduation and adulthood. Whereas unaccompanied youth experiencing homelessness confront these and other challenges associated with homelessness without the support and guidance of a caring adult. Whereas awareness of youth homelessness and its causes may be heightened to ensure greater support for effective programs aimed at preventing youth homelessness. Whereas the citizens of the City of Oroville, California, are the key to preventing youth homelessness by being mentors and role models, guiding youth towards available resources and productive choices, and creating opportunities for youth to successfully transition to adulthood. Now, therefore, the City of Oroville hereby recognizes November 2018 as Homelessness and Runaway Youth Month, signed by Linda Dahlmeyer. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. Okay, at this time, it is the non-agenda items, and we do have people that wish to speak on a non-agenda item. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's always nice to see people in the audience. So,
Madam Mayor, quick question for you. I may have missed it. Was there an announcement out of closed session?
Direction given, no action taken.
Beautiful.
Got it? Right? Okay. Okay, so this is a non-agenda time. You have up to 3 minutes. If there's more than 15 speakers, we ask that you reduce it to 2 minutes because it is election night, and we do have a special item on the agenda tonight till 7, so we're all going to be here till 7. You can hang out with us. So the first non-agenda speaker is Bill Spear. And then Pastor Steve Terry.
Cool. Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. Honored to be here tonight to open up, and I come to pray, so it's a good way to open the meeting. Lord, we are truly grateful and thankful for election evening and for all the people who have laid down their lives to come and serve, and we pray for wisdom for all this next generation of people who are stepping up to be the leaders, and for the ones that stepped up that didn't make it, we pray that you would reveal your will and your plans for their lives, and they would go forth for the next chapter. We are grateful and thankful for this new chapter, this next direction for our city, and we pray that you would continue to guide us and direct us, that we would not go on our resources or what we have, but we would look to you, your resources, your guidance, your kingdom come, your will be done. Thank you for all the people that serve in our city, for the fighters and the police officers and all of the public servants that are serving every day, code enforcement that don't get very much gratitude, and so we just lift them up and their families, and for our state, Lord, we pray for your guidance, for the nation, Lord. It's been so divided. We pray, Lord, after this election, that instead of being so divided, that we would come together and work together. It says in your word that a house divided cannot stand. Let us work together. Let us see what we have in common instead of what it is that divides us. We pray for all the service groups in Oroville. There are so many that have been here for so long serving, and we pray that you would give them a fresh wind, a fresh, not to let them not get discouraged in doing good, but continue to do good. We lift up the Hope Center, and we thank you for them, right in the center of Oroville, bringing hope to the least of these, and we pray for provision for them. We pray for anointing for them. The rescue mission, we thank you for the rescue mission that and the work that they've done there so many years, and I pray that you would encourage Pastor Steve and Annie and all the people that contribute there. We pray for supernatural provision for them. Thank you for Oroville. Thank you for Butte County. Thank you for this evening, the election, and all the people here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Pastor Steve Terry, and then Bobby O'Reilly.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm here a little bit different tonight. Tonight I'm actually doing something I've really never done before. The mission has been around for 55 years, and we have never, ever, ever asked for any kind of funding. So tonight I'm here on non-agenda to ask that we be placed on the agenda for a future meeting and be continued or considered for RDA funding. We are in process of rehabbing 2 downtown locations that belong to the mission that need to be brought up. I've done some research. I know they fall under the RDA funding projects, and so that is the reason I'm here. And so I simply am asking someone place this on the agenda. I don't know what else to say other than that.
Okay.
So.
Is there anybody that wishes to put that on the agenda? Needs 2 council members or the mayor?
It's simply an application process, right? Doesn't need to be a council thing, or does it?
No, it actually, Tom, can you address that?
Yes, there really wouldn't be an application process. However, what we would need is full details, cost estimates, obviously the locations, etc., so that council, if you decided to put it on the agenda, could talk about it and compare it to the funds available and make sure that the city attorney agrees that it's eligible when the letter application comes forward.
I'll go ahead and be the primary.
Takes 2 council members?
Sure. Yep, I'll second that.
Okay, I agree. Thank you, Mr. Terry. Bobby O'Reilly, and then Sherry Bunker.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I caught a little bit of Steve Terry there. And council, it is a wonderful evening. I have a letter I'd like to read. I submitted this letter October 20th, 2018 to the Oroville City Council members and to the Oroville City Attorney. I'm writing this letter to make a two-part formal complaint to the Oroville City Council. Part 1 is regarding a letter dated August 22nd, 2018, signed by City Attorney Scott Huber, that has come to public light recently. The letter states there were numerous complaints that commentary of one individual during council meetings had disrupted other members of the public in attendance of the meetings. I have either watched and listened to or have been physically present at the meetings from this past year. In reviewing the meetings on the video and audio recordings, I have concluded the individual's address in the letter has only made one outburst that hardly interrupted any part of the meeting. The more notable parts I did notice were of commentary from other individuals on regular basis, as well as council members' commentary. There was an incident where I myself was at this very podium addressing the council and was shouted at by a member of the audience, which Bill Bynum, to shut up. He was sitting 2 seats over from the city attorney, who said nothing to him about it. Council members, as well as those in attendance, heard it loud and clear as it clearly disrupted the meeting. Another instance is various commentaries made by various people in the audience, including myself, during meetings, which is not acceptable either. It has been noticed by multiple members of the community and appears that things have been changed multiple times in the last year to make it more difficult for the individual addressed in the letter to record open and public meetings of the city council. Initially, there were accommodations that were available for the recordings. As of late, those accommodations have been removed one by one. The individual in the letter, addressed in the letter from city attorney, is well within the law to record open and public meetings. This individual goes above and beyond to provide a community service to the great citizens in which you serve. Those that are not able to attend these meetings can view and comment in live time on the meetings taking place. It is believed that this is a valuable resource to our community. If you are going to reprimand one individual for doing one thing one time, we the people had better see you reprimanding each and every person doing the same things. Part 2 of this letter is in regards to council members and their behaviors during council meetings. Certain council members have made it extremely clear when someone gets up to address the council in which they do not like. When that happens, those certain council members, as you can probably see right now, put their heads down, roll their eyes, make comments to other council members, and fail to give the respect to the individual in which they deserve as being participating member of this community, in which they took the office to represent and listen to. There have been instances of council members nearly and possibly violating people's First Amendment rights just because they do not like what the person is saying. City employees have gone as far as to attempt to tell people that what they can and cannot speak about during their 3 minutes time to address the council. It would be wise and appreciated if the city attorney or whomever addresses these issues could address this issue with the council as to proper etiquette and responses to community members. We have gone far too long with the abuse of those on council seats, with nothing being done about it. Please fix the problems as we have voted you in to do. If this matter is not resolved swiftly, it will be reported to our local ombudsman. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Bunker and John Miller George.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. Good evening. 2 things, actually 3 things. We have our Veterans Day Parade coming up at 11 o'clock on Sunday. I hope everybody attends. And I haven't gotten an application from the council members yet. And at 7 o'clock at Southside Community Center, we'll be having a Veterans Day dinner. It's free to all veterans. Everybody else is $10. We're having beef stroganoff. Mission Impossible Catering is providing the food. And there are several different organizations involved in that. The other thing I want to talk about is Bedrock Park. I would like to know the cost of what the bleacher teardown was. Was the material recycled? If so, what was the return? And was it put back into the park or was it put into general fund?
Thank you. John Miller George. If there's anybody else that wishes to speak on non-agenda items, now would be a time to fill out your blue card and get it in.
Mayor, you stole my thunder. I went around to tell everybody about...
I'm sorry. John, you go right ahead.
I went down to drop my 2 ballots off, my wife and mine, and to get I voted stickers, and they had run out. And that's good news, no matter whether you're a member of a political party or a religious person. If you believe in democracy, the more people that turn out, the better. And I really didn't mind that you stole my thunder. Tonight's election night. We're going to find out who the next city council and mayor are going to be. I'm sorry to see Mayor Dahlmeyer go. She's been a colorful figure. I don't always agree with her. She doesn't always agree with me, but I think on the balance, she's done a pretty good job, and I applaud her service. And in some respects, I'm really going to be sorry that you are gone. I don't know who the next mayor is going to be, but we'll all find out soon. And I hope that everybody, after this election, I don't care if you're a red t-shirt person or a blue t-shirt person or a green one or a white or a purple or a red, it's time to take off the team t-shirts and get together and solve the problems that this city has. It's time to stop covering up the severe problems we have financially, and everybody buckle down and be prepared to compromise to get the city's financial situation solved. That said, I have come up with a new idea that I've been inquiring with the city admin regarding a way to cut the costs of putting a police officer on the street. Unfortunately, it's hard to get the kind of answers that a corporate person would want to get to evaluate taking an action. And so I'm kind of volunteering free to talk with the people and devise a way of calculating the kinds of things that a corporation that would want to come here and invest millions, all right, would want to see, okay? No politics, no cannabis, all this stuff, but Oroville needs to make itself not just business friendly, but business welcoming. Okay, and we can do that without breaking any laws, without being biased. We can have the kind of city that it was when I lived here in 1972. Okay, think about that. The city has slid since then. Let's pull together after this election and fix it. And the people that are on this dais now, even if they lose office for the time until the new administration comes in, y'all can fix stuff.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else on non-agenda items? No? Okay. Moving on. We are going to go to the consent calendar. And is there anybody that wishes to pull any items? I do.
I do.
Okay. Item number 1, item number 4.
And 5.
And 5. Okay, with items number 1, 4, and 5 pooled, is there any other items? Looking for a motion.
I move that we adopt the consent calendar, exempt items 1, 4, and 5.
A second.
First and second, voting is open. All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 1, it's the minutes and the approval of the October 16th, 2018 City Council meeting. We have a speaker, Mr. Bill Spear.
Thank you, City Council. As I was reading over the minutes, on number 7, I think the minutes should be honest and you know, all the other ones seem all right, but on number 7, it says disclosure of potential inadvertent Brown Act violation. That should say disclosure of Brown Act violation. It wasn't a potential Brown Act violation. It was a Brown Act violation. It seems like the cover-up's worse than the violation. It was a minor violation. All you folks had to do is say, yeah, we violated it, and then apologize. There was no apology. There was no cure and correct. And then not only is that wording wrong, it should just come to the facts of what it is, not how you want it to be, or not how 5 of you look at it. But you know, the violation is against the citizens, and it's the laws are to protect the citizens. And you know, wording it's like you against us. You should just say what the truth is. Yes, we're sorry. We violated the Brown Act. So I would like potential inadvertent removed, just disclosure of Brown Act violation. And then it says the council disclosed that the 5 members of the council simultaneously. I would like simultaneously removed. That's might be in somebody's imagination that it was simultaneously, but that's not what happened. You guys all went there. That description of how you showed up there does not need to be in there. Appeared at Butte County Recorder's office to check potential voter fraud. That's all good. And have inadvertently violated, and may have inadvertently. You definitely violated the Brown Act, and it wasn't inadvertently. Maybe it was stupidly. You could put stupidly in there. That would work. Or unadvisedly. But, you know, all the extra descriptions of what actually happened is not how you should do the minutes. The minutes should be plain, and they should be truthful. And when you mess up, say, hey, I messed up. And not continue to try to make it look like you didn't mess up, to try to make it look like this here, having a false minutes, lying minutes is worse than the minor Brown Act violation that you did, because it wasn't all that big a thing, but the way that you guys reacted to it, that's the big thing. One of the council members coming and threatening someone who come and spoke up about it after the meeting, threatening physical violence. That's the big problem here. But we need to start out just by being truthful and saying things what it is, and having minutes that are correctly say what happened. That isn't correctly what happened. That's an aversion that 5 people. You might have some of your people that are agreeing with you saying, but that's not for the city, for the people who are on the other side of the violation, which is against the people. It's not fair, and it's not right, and it should be changed.
Any questions or comments?
I'd like to ask a question. Mr. Spear, who do you think writes these minutes? You think the council writes them?
Probably the attorney.
No. It's the clerk. Okay, we don't write those minutes, okay?
Right, you could say they're not correct and have them corrected.
If I thought they were incorrect.
They're not
Yeah.
correct. Are there, you think that's the correct version of what happened?
Okay, so I'm in the queue, and I happen to agree with Mr. Spear. But in a situation like this, when you have 5 council members that have violated the Brown Act, not once but twice, that they have to vote whether or not to censor themselves. And they have to vote whether or not they agree. And so in this situation, you're not going to find that happening. And the minutes, although are not dictated by the city council members, they certainly are written in such a manner that the staff doesn't want to lose their job, and the city attorney doesn't want to lose a vote to keep his contract, or senior staff doesn't want to lose a vote to keep their contract. So this is a situation that you have, and until it changes, this is the way it will remain. But I completely agree with you. I would like the minutes changed myself.
A second.
There's a first and second.
I'd like to make a comment too at this point. And one of the things that I have heard is that to be a violation of the Brown Act, there has to be a definite plan to hide something from the public. And we went there in broad daylight. 2 other citizens were with us. And we talked about it beforehand, and there was nothing on the agenda or the city dealing with it. So we inadvertently went because we were at another function. There was no plan to do anything terrible or to do anything shady. It was all very above board. And so our city attorney has said that he doesn't see that it was a violation of the Brown Act. And I feel like if Mr. Ramsey sincerely felt it was, he should have charged us with a misdemeanor. Okay? He should have. And if we did, let him do that. But I don't think we did. And if I thought that we did, I would definitely publicly apologize for that. But there was no intention to deceive anyone. So that's just my take on it.
So I believe the DA was very clear that the violation did occur. And he said if it happens again that you guys would all be charged with a misdemeanor. And Mr. Spear is bringing up a very valid point that the word inadvertently was added by the city attorney for whatever reason. But the public has absolutely been in an outcry because of the lack of sincerity from this council that you can't even apologize for something that you potentially simultaneously inadvertently did. Their perception is that you did. And I will apologize for him because it's embarrassing. And as the mayor of this city, I'm embarrassed for this council to behave this way. So we have a first and second to change the minutes. Mr. Huber, can you tell us how we can do that? Because I would like the minutes changed.
You have a first and second to change the minutes. If there's no further discussion, then it's up for a vote if you'd like the minutes to be changed.
Okay. So, what words would you like stricken?
Me?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Cool. Okay. I would like simultaneously on the number 7, the header, I would like potential inadvertent.
Yeah, inadvertent was the original verbiage, but potential was not.
Yeah, I'd like potential and inadvertent stricken, and then on the under the heading, I would like simultaneously took off, and also may have inadvertently removed. That would make it correct statements.
Councilmember Berry and Councilmember Thompson are in the queue, and then we'll take a vote.
There was no violation of the Brown Act. That charade was brought forth with an item that was added to the council agenda. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Huber, that item should have been voted on to be added to the agenda, and it wasn't. Correct?
Well, the item was added before the meeting. We have in previous meetings adopted the practice of approving the agenda or adopting the agenda. That did not occur at that meeting, if that's what you're referring to, yes.
Yes, sir. But I just maintain that that whole agenda item was kind of a stage affair.
Mr. Huber?
Yes.
How did that agenda item end up on our agenda?
I received a phone call about a potential Brown Act violation.
From who?
From Mr. Legrone.
And so.
And in discussing it with Mr. Legrone, we decided let's put it on the agenda. Since my name has been bantered about on both sides of this aisle, let me say what my actual advice was, which is this. The question of whether a Brown Act violation occurred is a legal question. There is no interpretation in any case law that shed any light as to this particular circumstance. The issue is voter registration something that is under the purview of this council? And I'm not going to take sides. I'm going to give you the straight legal analysis that I looked at. In looking at all of the cases, there was no guidance in any case. Nothing similar has been decided. Anything factually similar to this instance. In the Brown Act violation cases that are published, nothing was similar to this. Even in the unpublished cases, nothing was similar to this. So I went and I looked. I did just basic analysis, which is, okay, look at the facts. Is voter registration subject to the purview of the council? On one side of the coin, you would have arguments that the city has nothing to do with voter registration. We don't deal with anything related to do with voter registration, so therefore it's not under the purview of the council, and that no violation occurred. On the flip side of that, and what you heard the DA talk about was, well, the city does contract with the county to run elections. So the question is the running of elections sufficiently connected to voter registration to constitute a Brown Act violation? I will tell you, I asked about 8 or 9 attorneys, some that I spoke with and some that I emailed, and there was about a 50-50 split. And so, in my opinion, when you have something that is unclear, the best thing to do is to disclose it. This is unclear. Could ultimately, could a finder of fact, a judge, decide that yes, this is a Brown Act violation? Sure. Could a finder of fact reasonably say it's not a Brown Act violation? Sure. Where would that come out? I have no idea.
And our district attorney thought what?
Well, your district attorney thought it was a Brown Act violation, but I will tell you, he stood here and said this is clearly a Brown Act violation. Mm-hmm. Anytime you hear an attorney say this is clearly something, it's not that clear. I can tell you this is not clear. It's just not. Anytime the adjective clearly is used, they're trying to bolster their argument when you just can't. And I can tell you there is no guidance here. There isn't. In any case, there's no guidance. I wish there was, because then it would be really clear, but it's not.
So the conversation, going back to what Councilmember Berry was saying, that it was just it was put on there for some reason, but ultimately the phone call took place with Chief Legrone from the district attorney and recommended that we do this. Correct?
You'd have to ask the chief that, yeah.
So, because there's a question about why it was even on the agenda.
That's correct. District Attorney Ramsey called me, I believe, the Friday prior, a few minutes to 5, to notify me of a potential issue.
Okay. So he said put it on, and we did. All right, Councilmember Thompson.
Not to get in the weeds in regarding the verbiage, but listening to Mr. Huber, you know, I still believe in regarding the DA and regarding the Brown Act violation, but to go as far to say whether it was inadvertent or not, I think might be pushing it a little bit too far. I see that there was some confusion as far as what was happening there. So I do see it as a Brown Act violation, but I'm not sure if I can judge their motives to say it was inadvertent or not, or whether they simultaneously or not. You know, making it clear. Just if I'm going to vote yes, I don't feel comfortable voting completely saying, you know, they purposely violated the Brown Act.
So what verbiage would you leave?
Just
or
in the potentially.
Strike potentially?
Mm-hmm.
I can go with that. It's a first and a second. Anybody else have any comments?
Madam Mayor, if I could, just for the council's consideration, these are action minutes. No, the only action taken in this was cure and correct and notification of the public. The real story for the individual to each to decide is in the video, which is attached to our website. Now, whether you agree it was a violation or you disagree it was a violation, just as was stated at the podium, that's for the individual. I think the minutes that are written here directs a person to where the video is to observe it. It's not meant to encapsulate the entire argument, the entire item in that little brief thing. It's just a brief synopsis.
I understand. I just don't believe the synopsis is telling. So, all right. Looks like it's going to stay.
Well, you have to vote, actually.
First and second, voting's open. So we're voting to change it, yes?
Whether or not the language changes, yeah.
All votes are in. Anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
Motion fails.
And you still need, Mayor, still need a motion to approve the minutes.
Yes, but we still have
several other items on the consent.
That's true.
Yes.
Mr. Spear, was that the only thing on the minutes that you wanted to speak on? Yes. Okay. Motion to approve the minutes for October 16th, 2018.
I move that we approve the minutes from October 16th, 2018.
I'll second that.
Voting's open. All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
Motion carries.
Item number 4, Supplemental Benefit Fund Grant Application for the City of Oroville. I just wanted you to speak a little bit about this briefly.
All right, both of these items were just notification to the council and the community that we did apply to the Supplemental Benefit Fund for funding for Bedrock Park. At Bedrock Park, what we've requested funding for was to build a pavilion in the park for the replacement of the bleachers that were there. The bleachers were removed because they were structurally unsound. They're not safe. The bleachers are actually still at the corporation yard. They will be recycled. I have no idea what the funding or the money we'll get from that. The money that we will receive from that will go back into the general fund because the parks are funded through the general fund. So that money will be returned to the city when those bleachers are recycled. But we requested $175,000 to build a 30-foot pavilion that will withstand up to 100,000 cubic feet a second of water flow, because we don't want to put it in there and then immediately have a high water event that washes our gazebo or our pavilion away. It's going to look something similar to what the ones at Riverbend Park. We believe if we get that done, that will enhance the park, will create a small venue for whether it's weddings or get-togethers, barbecues, things like that, create more usability of the park. So that was our first application.
Okay.
Our second application is to replace the fencing and to add a pedestrian guardrail on Table Mountain Boulevard between the fish hatchery and the county buildings in Grand Avenue. That fence is worn, torn, ragged, and horrible looking. But the biggest issue I see with it is that it doesn't really serve a purpose other than it keeps you from falling off of the sidewalk, but it's certainly not going to prevent a vehicle from coming up onto the sidewalk or anything else. So in order to do this, what we'd like to do is receive funding to put in a guardrail on the inside of the walkway, and then put a nice chain link fencing about 42 inches tall with black vinyl. It's just what I like. The final design will be the council's decision. Put it up the hill there on the outside so that from the roadway you'll see the fence. It'll be aesthetically pleasing, but it'll also offer pedestrian safety in the event that a car does leave the roadway and come into the walkway. We've also, one of the features that we wanted to include in that was easy replacement, so that in the event that it does get hit, the guardrail gets damaged, that the pylon or the structure, the post that holds it, can be removed and a new post slid in, and the guardrail replaced at that point. Because one of the issues we've had with the other roundabout is constant damage to it and the expense of replacing it. So we did ask for $150,000 for that. We will, if we're successful in our request to the SBF, we will be bringing all of those things back to the council for final design and for cost estimates and engineer reports.
Thank you. Councilmember Thompson, did you wish to speak on item number 4?
Yes, I would. And regarding those two items, the gazebo in the park, I believe, personally, because I'm on the SBF committee, the gazebo for the park clearly falls into the qualifying guidelines for the SBF. But the SBF, the three main areas are recreation, economic development, and quality of lifestyle. I do actually think that the guardrail better fits under the RDA funds. That's for infrastructure, failing infrastructure, and blight, whatnot. So I would actually prefer that to be applied in that grant.
What my thought process on that was, Councilman Thompson, was that the issue we seem to run into at every salmon festival is parking. And one of the reasons I believe that we don't have a large pedestrian parking or people parking their vehicles up at the county buildings on Grand Avenue is that walkability and the accessibility of the fish hatchery. I believe if we were to do that and increase that, it's going to increase the amount of foot traffic to our fish hatchery and the exposure, usability of the fish hatchery. So that's kind of where my thoughts were on that, is why I came that way.
That still falls underneath the RDA for that. Okay. For those, even that language you said, it's RDA language in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not sure if we could fix it with the thing, with the with our what we're going to approve number 4 on, but I would like to approve it for the gazebo and not for the guardrail.
4 is just an informational item. These all of these have to come back to you for final approval if the SBF is gracious enough to grant our request.
You can obviously see where I'm going to vote on the guardrail.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say this might be a conversation about whether it fits or not that's better had at the SBF meeting.
Right. And so thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking for any other comments. This was for a vote for approval?
No, just
acknowledgement. Only, right? So moving on to item number 5, there was a request to have this pulled, which Councilmember Thompson is in the queue. Foreclosures of 1730 Beach and 119 Morning Star.
Thank you. I guess I'm a talker here tonight. The second one, it was upside down on the. Can you explain that for me? How that? I mean, obviously we know how that happens, but it's pretty significant.
It is a large amount. This borrower had a first-time homebuyer loan. They also had a very significant rehabilitation loan and a landscape loan. And at the time, we didn't have any safeguards in place to stop the amount of, or a maximum amount that we could lend to one property. But there are new guidelines that we are not allowed to do these large of rehab. I think it was over $100,000 in the rehab loan alone.
Right. So is there a way that we can recoup some of those lost funds, or we just got to just take it?
Well, the recoup is by clearing the primary mortgage, which is the $16,000, and then trying to resell it and recoup our loss that way, and that's what we're trying to do.
I see the assessed value like 110, right?
110, and we're not even sure at that. We haven't had any appraisals yet, so we're not sure if we'll even recoup that much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's no way to whatever's left over to see if we can recoup that from the previous owner or whatnot?
No, because what will happen is the previous owner is deceased. Both of these are deceased, so that's why we're foreclosing.
Even if they weren't under foreclosure law, you're limited to the remedy of foreclosing on the property and foregoing any overage that you don't recover.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments on item number 5? Looking for a motion?
I move that we authorize the foreclosure of the city's loan interest on both of those properties.
Second. First and second, voting's open. All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change? Voting closed.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 6, It's already done, huh? Okay.
Yes.
We've gone through item number 8. It's 10 to 6. Is there, which one is a timed item?
Item 11 is time specific at 7 p.m.
12.
Correction, item number 12 is time specific.
Okay. Okay, we're going to be moving on to regular business. Item number 9. There was a suggestion just prior to this to maybe changing the wording of the council agenda to after the first of the year, since tonight is election night and they can change it anyway. It's kind of the minutia at this point. So I was speaking with Chief Lagrone, and he had recommended that maybe we could wait till after the first of the year on this. We only have 3 more meetings. What's the pleasure of the council?
I concur.
Anybody else? Okay, we're going to postpone item number 9 till after the first of the year, and we're going to let the new people make a call on how they want their agenda to be stacked up. Thank you very much. Actually, Mr. Spear, you were a speaker on that item, but we've pulled it. Okay, thank you. So moving on to item number 10, we actually have speakers on item number 10. And it's stage agreement for acquisition and ownership of the State Theater. And before we get started on this, I've asked Mr. Huber to make a few comments because there's obviously several members in the audience this evening of stage, including some of us council members and the members of the staff. So we want to make it perfectly clear that if there is a conflict or not, and so the city attorney is going to speak to that.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was a question that has been raised about conflicts of interest and when a council member would need to recuse themselves for a vote related to a financial conflict of interest. When you think of financial conflict of interest, think of money going in your pocket or value coming to you in some fashion. Unless a council member is an owner of stage, not a donor, but an owner of the underlying corporate nonprofit entity of stage, then you do not have a conflict of interest. If you are an owner, then you have a problem. But as I understand it, as long as a council member is not an owner or a board member or a decision maker for stage, then you do not have a financial conflict of interest. This is actually the reverse of a conflict of interest. When you donate money to a nonprofit, you do not have a financial interest in that nonprofit if you receive nothing in return. If you're donating, it is literally the mirror image of a financial interest. You're diminishing your own financial interest by giving funds, not in a bad way. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying you are not receiving anything of value. You're giving something of value. So the fact that one or more of you may have donated to stage, or have family members that have donated to stage, or friends that have donated to stage, or relatives, that does not constitute a conflict of interest under any circumstance related to this group.
So with that said, I was
going to add to that. I was simply going to say, in terms of the staff report, that this seems to be a win-win, that this is a very positive for our community, that it's money that we are already spending, that this, in combination with a grant from the SBF, if that were to be granted, would both make the theater secure and also, frankly, save the city some money. So and it is an eligible redevelopment expense. As you're aware, redevelopment money can be spent for physical improvements, cannot be spent for things like staffing, so it couldn't be used, for example, to beef up the police or fire department. It has to be used for something like this. So from staff's perspective, this is a win-win proposal.
So with that said, I just want to ask for a show of hands. How many people have donated to stage? So I just want to make it clear that, you know, several of us have donated, and so it's money going out, although we get to see some fine productions throughout the year. We certainly appreciate it.
And I shamefully didn't raise my hand, and so I'm like, I haven't done it yet, but I need to. I apologize.
Shamefully is right. So, Councilmember Del...
They were taking notes, by the way, of the hands that didn't go up.
I felt it.
They've been counting.
Did anybody get a picture of that? So you know who to... Right. Councilmember Del Rosario? You're in the queue.
Thank you. I just want... Thank you. I can't get this thing to work. Is it working? Okay. I just want it clarified that as the liaison for the city, I am not in conflict voting on this issue.
You are not.
Okay.
So the one question that I had is it is a large sum of money coming out of what is a one-time bucket of money for the successor agency funds. And I am still of the opinion that our city needs to set aside money to improve the broadband in this community, because if we have matching funds, we could probably end up with broadband not only in key areas of business but throughout the city, which would, with some of the new technologies, make it available for kids all over to end up with free Wi-Fi. And that's so necessary anymore when the kids go home and they can't get their homework done because they have a tablet and no Wi-Fi at home. So we're down to $1.4 million after this adventure. But with that said, I want to...
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Well, if I could, just on the presentation in August, broadband was actually 500,000 of that 1.4 was set aside for broadband.
And I was also then going to add that based on the savings, and I suspect if this doesn't happen, the city will continue to contribute, that money would be available to use citywide, which actually would make it more available for broadband elsewhere besides the redevelopment area.
Okay, I'm trusting that I'll get that all later. So you gave 500,000. So is the 1.4 minus the 500,000?
1.4 that of the 1.4 that's left on there, I believe it's, and I'm going off my memory, 500,000 was set aside for broadband, 400,000 for affordable housing, and then the balance was left available for other projects as identified.
So of the 3.2, the approved projects,
of the approved projects right now,
does that include the broadband?
The $1.4 million, it says balance if approved. Of the 1.4, 500,000 of that was originally presented as dedicated to broadband. So that would leave you a balance after, say, it became available tomorrow, we'd have 900,000. Then we'd spend 400,000 for property acquisition for affordable housing was the plan. Doesn't mean the plan can change.
400,000.
About 450, I think, was the final balance.
Okay.
Yep, Madam Mayor, it's not in the approved projects list because it hasn't come before the council yet for approval to spend the funds on some specific project. It is earmarked in the, as Chief Legron said, in the balance of 1.44 million.
Okay.
500 of it is earmarked for that. We don't have a specific project yet to put the money to, but it is earmarked for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. All right, who wants to do the presentation? Are you already done with your presentation?
Yes, I think
that was like 10 seconds worth. Any other comments from the dais before I open it up to the public? Okay. First speaker is Mr. Mall, Jim Mall, and then Bud Tracy. Yeah, item number 10, we have speakers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. First of all, it is election day. I want you to know most people would like me to run, but not for office. Thank you for clearing up your I voted 3 times sticker. In Chicago, of course, the theory is vote early, vote often. As the council knows, in July of 14, the State Theater Arts Guild took over the ongoing day-to-day operation of the State Theater, a move which at the time was described as a savings to the city of somewhere north of $100,000 a year. Our request for $750,000 this evening is actually part of the ongoing evolution of our relationship with the city. That evolution, we believe, will also be accelerated because we are planning to apply for the Supplemental Benefits Fund of $1.5 million. The RDA funds would be our matching 50% for a $1.5 million grant request. We believe we can accelerate the acquisition strategy for the State Theater from 10 years to significantly shorter. The main benefit that I see, and I believe our board sees as part of this strategy and this effort, is that we will be alleviating the city of some significant deferred maintenance liability. If the city retains ownership of the theater for a 10-year period of time, as most of you know, our theater has a number of deferred maintenance issues, namely the roof, which could be a significant undertaking. If it were a public project, it would be a less significant undertaking if it were a private project run by a nonprofit organization like Stage. So our request this evening is to apply for the $750,000 and to use that money as a down payment for the SBF. We already have an application into the SBF for the funds, outlining specifically how the use of the theater and the purchase of the theater will benefit our community in general, the downtown area specifically. And so we look forward to the support of the council and certainly, Mr. Thompson, support of the SBF when that comes up later this month. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. It is interesting to look back when we first came to the city council and made our proposal to take over the day-to-day operation of the theater. I think we had less than $10,000 in the bank. We had no significant volunteer recruitment effort. We had no significant board direction, and as you can see from the packet of information that we submitted, a copy of which I have here to support this request this evening, we have come a long way, and again, we refer to it as the Miracle on Myers, and we think the miracle is an ongoing effort.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bud Tracy, and then Tom Turk. Yeah, Bud Tracy first, but Tom, you can stand. You can stand.
I found that out the other day.
Tom, you can stand right behind him and be ready, because we don't want Bud going over.
Yeah, or behind me. Hello.
Speaking to the microphone, Bud. You got 3 minutes.
Okay.
There you go.
Bud Tracy Realty Company. My main office is in downtown Chico. Madam Mayor and council members, basically, more than anything else, I'm here to endorse a couple of things. One of the obvious ones.
Did you say your main office was downtown Chico or Oroville? You did, but it's Oroville.
Wow. I apologize. I don't have one in Chico.
Yeah,
I closed it.
I
closed it like 7 years ago.
Did you all hear that?
I probably still owe rent on it. I probably still owe rent on it, but I will on this one. But no, all of our investments are in Oroville. We don't have any in Chico at all. But anyway, bottom line is that the downtown has always been an obsession of mine, as I think you know. And starting in 71, to go back to that, for many years our obsession was in Chico, and it was 60% vacant when I first started working on it. And by the time it got finished and I came over here, the thing I like over here a lot better are the people. Oh. So it's been an absolutely awesome community. And the first, I've been here about 18 years, focused on Oroville. And the downtown during that time, if you really go back and if you had pictures of it, it's come a long ways. I mean, it really, really has. But there's the physical side of the buildings, and there's the people side of the businesses and having them open. And then there's the other one of the customers and getting people here. So in the long run, branding and things of that type, getting a downtown that's absolutely as unique as we all know it is, and getting that word out is amazingly strong. The thing that has to be focused on is to get that branding and get that word out. one of the things that we have that is amazing, and watching it come over the years, and I would say watching Mr. Mall come together with this, but half the people in this room have spent as much time on it, and the endorsements have been amazing all the way along, and their events have been increasingly popular. And when they come downtown, one of the things we're trying to do right now is get the business people together downtown, and believe it or not, it is absolutely working. People that for a lot of years that I've watched haven't talked to each other are all in the same room with the same ideas right now, and they see it as unique downtown. Let everybody in all the surrounding communities know about it, get them over here, and that's one of the things that'll get us here.
Yep.
So once they come over here, if everybody in town knows that that's going to go on, and they know when that event's over, they know when the Oroville Inn is going to have a big event, because we're going to let them all know. We've got an email tree that we've been building. When something's happening at Gray Nurse, when something's happening at the Copa. At each one of those, we're going to make sure that everybody in town knows that, and start to decide whether or not businesses ought to be open at night. Mm-hmm. And having people come out of stage and going to coffee together or a bar together or whatever is fantastic. And having that culture and those arts in it that have been put in by stage, and I think and it's no offense to the city, but by stage, mm-hmm. And by a lot of private investment in the other parts of the downtown. You've seen roughly $10 to $12 million in the last few years come into restorations. So heavily endorse stage being in charge.
Thank you. Tom Turk, and then Alan Young.
Mayor Dallmeyer and council members. I'm Tom Turk, and I'm standing here as a member of Stage, but more for my personal reasons and my take on the State Theater. In Bud's defense, I was born in 1938 in Oroville Curran Hospital, and if Bud wants to reveal what his birthday is, we'll find out who's the oldest, right? Yes, I started attending the State Theater in like 1945 or 46, when I was 6, 7 years old. For many years, and it has a real personal spot in my heart for the State Theater and what it means to the city of Oroville, and all the effort that's been done to maintain that building and keep it from being torn down. It's been discussed about eliminating it, too costly, this, that, and the other. But if we find money for other things, we should find money for the State Theater. So I'm asking the council to really consider the importance of the State Theater for the city of Oroville. This is the 4th year that I have rented the State Theater and put on a Southern Gospel Night of Music concert. It's a free event. And without saying any more, I'd like to personally give each of you an invitation to attend. It's November 13th. Doors open at 6 o'clock, and the concert starts at 6:30. And this year, I brought people up in past from Southern California and professional groups. We have professional musicians and participants in the event for this 13th. And it's a quality presentation. Because it's free, I'm sure some people come. But other than that, we want them to come and bring somebody with them and fill up that theater if we can do that. So if I may, can I give each of you
Certainly.
a personal invitation to attend on November 13th?
Yeah.
May I do that?
You got 1 minute left. You can keep talking. We have a timed event on our schedule tonight, so we're going to be here till 7 o'clock anyway. Did you? Thank you.
Thank you for your family and what you've done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
So a little note about Tom. I met him when I moved here, but little did we know that I knew his son when I lived in Elk Grove. So that was a small world. Oh, all right. Thank you so much. Alan Young.
Thank you, Council. About 10 years ago, I was the president of the Birdcage Theater, the Performing Arts Theater. We mounted 3 productions at the State Theater, the Music Man, South Pacific, and Kismet. These were full-length musicals. Nothing has really been done since then. These were very important productions, very difficult to do. We had 3 ladies, very talented ladies, working on them. Shirley Bagato was the director. Trish Young did the choreography. And Deborah Wigley was the voice coach. Anyway, there's potential renaissance in this area. They may be doing, these 3 ladies may be getting together to do The King and I at the State Theater. I just want to, it should go without saying how important this theater is to Oroville. All you have to do is drive through Marysville and look at the State Theater. And so whatever you can do to support a stage, do it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just say one thing. I know that over the time that I know that if this building were in the hands of the nonprofit, that it would be light years ahead of where it is today, and having it owned by Stage or privately owned or taken out of the hands of the cities, the city is going to be a benefit because they will be able to apply for grants, loans, funding, and so many other sources. As long as the city keeps that building tied up, they will get zero chance of ever moving forward on that. So with that said, I'm looking for a motion to approve or make a recommendation for the request in front of us this evening.
I'll make a motion that we grant the money that Stage is requesting. And let's see.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Third.
Fourth. Voting's open. All votes are in. I have to say, I'm certainly grateful to be part of this vote this evening. So it's going to be beautiful. The sooner you can take ownership of that, the better off you're going to be. So I'll help any way I can.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of the council. We appreciate it.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
So, you know what? We're going to go ahead and take a recess now because you guys are going to leave and we've got a timed event. So let's go ahead and take a 20-minute break, I think.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, Chief Legrone, if we could we just take just a 2-minute break and do the mitigated negative declaration, then take our break for the TEFRA hearing? Because
how long is number 11 going to take? I was just trying to let them clear the room.
I don't anticipate it taking more than 10 minutes.
Okay. We got to take a break so they can leave.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so glad Billy went across. For his present. Is that what he was commenting on? It's cold.
What happened was
You're amazing. I was just texting you.
Yeah, no, I think, and it's fine. I just turned the page and noticed it, that's all.
She'll go to any lengths.
go tonight.
You distracted me.
They might have gone to a meeting. Have the old pickup though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember talking about this. Yeah, like so many people, so many faces. There was a time when I could almost keep track of all that. Hey, you're already around there. Good there. I wrote out the plan here on how to deal with this demographic issue. I mean, it's huge. I mean, I wanted to go speak for a second. Yes, this is, you know, important as the gazebo, almost even more important because it's weighted. We're going to, we'll fill the time over here. And how to go about it, you know, because if we can get this stuff together, because they build fires down there. I mean, it's like, it's one thing Scott pointed out it takes one year to correct this or to approve it.
Along the left
Still,
where the grass is from, because there's fires down there.
You need somebody to correct it. Yes, I did. Maybe not halfway.
The thing that he wants to do, he's saying this is more important than the gazebo.
One of the things, well, I did know about working about all work. And what we're trying to work out is getting a 9-person squad. Oh, yeah. I'm following up on that. Right. Can I just keep it? Okay. Yeah, if I keep it, then I'll put that on our list. I'll get Tom down there because Tom just complained about not having enough to do. So I'll bring a weed eater in for him tomorrow. And I'll watch. I mean, I will go down there and do my part and film it and put it on Facebook.
He'll tell you how to work the weed eater.
The mobile's down. Yeah, then there was no store. She said it went down and they got busy that morning. Yeah, just them, I think.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it would take a hydro axe approximately an hour and a half to mow that stuff down, especially the road between Bedrock Park. See, the thing is, the levee is, you know, the trail, another park, the city, but the out there on the island is a steep waterway, and so I went over to speak with Collins. He says, we're only limited to the trail. But if all that stuff was going down, we could see. So it's like, you just walk on a state land and get somebody if that stuff wasn't there. I have never done here. I have to somebody at 7:45. Oh, I did. Yeah, exactly. I know that one.
You guys have that tonight.
Yeah. Well, I was.
I wanted to thank you for this.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're going to do very well.
Oh.
I was much more excited when I saw the meeting was at 6 o'clock. It's like, well, this is going to be great. Yeah, you know. Well, the problem was, you know, either way we're going to be done here at 7:15, 7:20. Well, if I spend the time, I got to get up and God knows what time, then I got to fight that traffic down and through Sacramento. If I might as well. It was like on 5. I mean, it was like bumper to bumper for way past the airport. I mean, past the airport. It's crazy.
My name's Carol Anderson. I know the hospital expansion with regard to the parking situation. What are your plans?
Everybody else is so pleased with
So I figure, the difference is I get home at 3.
You don't have any more to go horizontally, you gotta go up.
One is there's more parking spaces. And the other thing is most of the parking
Yeah, but how do we solve it? I don't care who caused the problem, we need a solution.
we move the clinics out. So the clinics and people buildings out, and the clinics go out. It's just going to be a celebration.
Well, where do they go?
All over the
So the doctor's offices that are there by Christmas, that building?
that building is demolished, except for what I said.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. 3-story building. Oh, down there where it used to be all the farms, that building?
That one, is more. So all the farms are right next to all the farms. Behind that farm is there's some
Because I parked in the Ark and hiked up the hill for an EKG, and I tell you, that was gone.
You should have given me an EKG while you were walking.
And the other question I have is, this is going to be several stories higher than we currently have.
Oh, yeah, literally.
We have the fire truck that has ladder trucks that has big handholds, that kind of situation in our city.
Because nobody wants to do it the holidays.
Yeah. And they're out, but they're outside the city limits.
They do, yeah. Ours is
Cal Fire.
for John.
That was my understanding.
Right. And let us know all year.
Yeah.
My first doctor, he's the one who was talking against John.
The water study. And better water. Oh, it tastes so much better. I don't know. I'm concerned that one of the new board members on South Feather was previously funded by Cal Water, so I don't know. I just feel like they put a mole in there.
Florida is really close. Senator and
Yeah. Never, it wasn't up front.
Okay. 2/3 of the vote in.
problem with that. Right, doesn't matter. You get 2 bursts all year. Yeah, right. Right, sensitivity, right. Yeah, here's a base case, here's what happens. Sensitivity 1, 2, whatever. Introduce someone. He's going to throw it to you if you want to say something. And introduce us. And if they have a question about the finance, about the documents and everything. No, he's his own person. Yeah.
He actually filled the toilet bowl.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so we want to do Mr. Wences.
It's like watching a pot boil.
How are you?
Just.
I know. You okay? Drink some of your water.
I'm going to take a cough drop. Zan, I see you back there.
You notice we got our way after all, right? We got our 20 minutes anyway. Thank you, Chief Lagrone. He thought he was in charge of our recess, I think. All righty. So we are back. It's public hearing time. And you okay, Jackie? So I'll go ahead and announce how we do public hearings and give her a minute. Mayor Chairperson opens the public hearing. Staff presents the answers and questions from the council. Hearing is open to the public. You're limited to 3 minutes per speaker. In the event there's more than 10, you'll be limited to 2. We have 1 or 2 speakers, so you'll get your 3 minutes. Speakers are requested to provide a speaker card. Public comment session is closed, and then the council will debate and take action. So we are moving on to item number 11, which is a public hearing. Approve the negative mitigation declaration for the Oroville Hospital expansion. Staff report. Mr.
Good evening,
Gary.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Gary Lehman, Chief Building Official and Acting Community Development Director. I'm here to bring forward to you the mitigated negative declaration for the Oroville Hospital Expansion Project. And we put this out for comment in August. We put it out for a 45-day comment period. 20 days was actually required, and we put it out for 45 for extended. We did receive comments within a week of the time sending it out. Then made some revisions, revised it, put it back out for comment on September 25th, and then sent it also to the clearinghouse for their for them to send it out to the other professional agencies and jurisdictions as well. It ended in the city comment period 30 days because we gave it a 30-day period when 20 days was all that was required by CEQA. And so we gave it a 30-day, extended for the comment period for people to be able to comment. The clearinghouse comment period ended on the 29th because they sent out and they gave a 30-day comment period as well. So on October 29th was the final day for comments for the negative mitigation, and I did receive some a request for an extension for comments from Caltrans. I had contacted Caltrans myself and gone over with the lead people down there at Caltrans and discussed with them on what their concerns were. Their concerns were not to hold up the project and to see the project go through, but you know, what was going to be provided in that. So therefore I've set up a meeting, and I have a meeting with them on Thursday of this week at 8:30 to go over this project and some other projects. However, at the time when I spoke to them, they were unaware of what was put in on the transportation of traffic there on 16, and it was where I'd indicated, and this is on page 54 of the negative declaration, street striping will be provided to meet alternate 3 recommendations shown in figure 6-7 of the State Route 162 corridor plan, the plan final prepared for Butte County Association of Governments in June of 2016. So that's an alternate plan of some striping in lieu of widening of the road for in the future when Caltrans widens the road, widens Olive Highway up past Foothill Boulevard in that direction. Staff didn't feel that we had a concern that if we widened the road, we would only create a hazard and more potential for accidents, and that from widening it to 4 lanes, then shooting it right back down to 2 lanes, bottlenecking down, people would then speed up and go, and therefore we would create more hazard than leaving well enough alone. However, we're not leaving well enough alone because in the plan for 2016, it had indicated about this alternate striping plan, which is 2 lanes heading south with a turn lane, bicycle lane, and then your pedestrian sidewalk as well. 1 lane heading north, which is, and the center turn lane, and a bicycle lane, and the pedestrian walkway, sidewalk in that. So I had gone over that with Caltrans. They were good. They didn't see that portion in it because they were looking at another study. But I'll be meeting with them Thursday, going over that on our traffic. Then on the 29th, we received another comment from the Gilmore girls in regards to some of their concerns. You will see that this is handed to you, which is my responses to their comments. The only comments that I noticed that weren't pertaining to the existing project, so keep in mind this is a new project. So with it being a new project, we took that project in consideration of a separate project, not what the existing project may be affecting. I did take it to the Planning Commission on October 25th, and therefore the Planning Commission has approved the move forward to the council here for approval. One of the comments that was made, the only comment from the Planning Commission that was made in regards to the declaration was one, helicopters. And to put a comment in here in the negative declaration under the traffic, under that same section there for helicopters for the traffic. So I didn't put it in the negative declaration here into the report because on the comments that we got from the Gilmore girls had indicated questions about the helicopters. And I had responded in this that it ends up being a part of our declaration that gets filed as to the helicopter situation. And staff sees it, and we do have the clients here that can better contest because they're more familiar with it than I am. However, with the expansion of the project and the expansion of the rooms and the equipment and technical support that there's going to be there will actually reduce the number of helicopter trips going out, because it's not helicopter trips coming in, it's helicopter trips going out, taking people out of the city because of lack of bedding, lack of housing, and lack of resources.
Complex.
Okay, so with that being said, that's kind of how staff saw it. But I'm going to let the applicants, if needed, answer any of those questions. Other comments that were made basically pertain to the existing facility, not so much to what the new impact was. There was some questions from the Gilmore girls, which was good, that had question about construction noise, dust, and that, which is a definite concern in the trucks and that traffic. In that, I had responded there, and it's also in the response in your in the declaration about the dust and the dust control during the course of construction. So that will all be taken care of during the course of construction, and it is indicated in the mitigated declaration. So with that being said, and having it recommended from the Planning Commission to move forward to the council, staff at this time recommends to the City Council for approval of the mitigated negative declaration for the Oroville Hospital project to be able to move forward for the City of Oroville. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah,
and those that I can't, the applicants are here. And, well, I'll leave it there. Yes.
Helicopter traffic, you say that it's a result of not having beds. I thought it was a result of needing specialized treatment or something beyond the capacity of the hospital. And
I'm gonna let the applicant, who's the experts on the helicopter situation and circumstance.
I'm not objecting. I'm just saying that that's what I'm surprised that it's because of lack of beds, and we have such a need here for a hospital, the expansion. And
Councilperson Del Rosario, if I could answer that for you, I actually spoke with the
Mr. Wentz the other day, and that is an accurate assessment of the helicopter traffic. It is taking patients for specialized care in areas that the hospital currently doesn't have. Once the facility's done, they'll be able to provide greater levels of care in those areas, so it will reduce that.
And I had spoken to the applicant here just, during our break, and it was indicated to me that they have done a study and analysis on the helicopter trips as to how many are coming in and how many are flying them out and why. So, and then what this would reduce it. But they would be the best to answer that question for you rather than the staff level at this point.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. We do have, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up for public comment. I have one person, and there was another card handed in. I don't know if it was for this one or not. We're opening up public comment on item number 11, approval of the negative mitigation declaration for the Oroville Hospital expansion. Randy Chapman. And if there's anybody else that wishes to speak, now's the time. Hi, Randy.
Mayor, council member, thank you. Randy Chapman. I've been a city planning commissioner for about over 10 years. And I just wanted to comment that...
Randy, can you speak a little closer to the microphone?
You bet.
Thanks.
The planning commission did pick apart the report pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the results. I would like to say I think Gary Lehman did a great job on that report. Mm-hmm. He's been working closely with the Planning Commission, and I'd like to say I see good things happening with the city, and I like the direction that we're going with Gary at the...
he always does a great job.
He does. Commissioner Durling commented that he'd actually drafted negative MIT docs, and that was a well-drafted doc. So I wanted to say thanks to Gary for presenting such a good doc, and with the staffing levels, making it happen at a progress. I think I can tell you as a real estate broker here in town, the hospital expansion's good for Oroville. We're all looking forward to it. And we made quite a bit of comment on it, and I think we're going in a good direction. So I just wanted to thank Gary for putting that together, and I think I see doors opening for the city in the future with some positive direction with the staff, even though we were at a low level. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer, but thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Mr. Chapman? Okay. All right. This is still a public hearing. Is anybody else wish to speak on item number 11 before I close public hearing? Anybody? Public hearing closed. Looking for discussion or comments from the dais and council? Anybody? Looking for a recommendation or a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution 8756 with attachments.
Voting's open. All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Gary.
you, Mr. Lehman.
Job well done.
Okay, well, now we're in that little quandary here. We've got 8 minutes till the next item.
Madam Mayor, if you'd like, you can certainly do the council announcement, discussion, future agenda items, administration reports, and get that out of the way if you'd like.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, I would love to. Council announcements. Anybody? Mr. Hatley? Mr. Thompson?
I guess just announcements or whatnot. I had Ruth, just as a point of comment, print out and pass out to everybody the current status of what we spent so far on our engineering. And if my memory serves me right, because it wasn't that long ago, about $358,000 last year we spent on an engineer hiring out to, is Bennett, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's for $358,000. I know for sure that we could find a full-time engineer to work for us as a staff. So I'd love to see the city move in that direction.
The city contract with Bennett Engineering is $150,000 a year, and everything beyond that is a special project that has come to council separate. I think that we have a sewer project with him, and we have an encumbrance of $441,000. That one project alone would be on top of the $150,000 that we have a contract with him.
Just a large sum.
So in English, what does that mean?
We're spending a lot of money on engineering, but we don't have an engineering department here on staff.
Yeah, with that, we could easily do an engineer and a staff for him.
So any of those projects, were they outside of the scope of an engineer that would have been an engineer on staff? Outside of the scope or the type of work?
I think that the $150,000 contract is basically for our engineering service. So anything beyond that would be additional services that we might have to look outside for. But maybe Mr. Lando could speak to that.
Yeah, Mr. Lando, I'm going to look to you for this one.
I think this is kind of a yes/no. If we were to hire a staff of engineers, yes, we could do it internally. Whether or not they could do the projects we're talking about,
right?
I would say it's doubtful hiring staff. But it may be worth looking at a combination of somebody inside the organization doing parts of it. But I think we still have to contract out parts, truthfully.
It all depends on who we hire too.
There's been
and the expertise.
There's
I mean,
been
we're
a few
talking about very diverse expertise.
There's been a few of us council members that have seen it both ways, Mr. Hatley and Mr. Barry, that we've had full-time engineers and we've had to hire out because of their specialties. That wasn't their specialty. And so we've had it both ways. But I understand, and hey, by all means, come January, you guys.
$358,000, like, man.
Well,
but some of it, she said the sewer fund. You have a sewer project, so that's coming out of the sewer fund.
It'd be nice to have it. Maybe if you could possibly break that out as far as
what the actual cost of an engineer is contracted out.
Potentially, if we had an experienced engineer in-house, what chunk of that could they handle? What would it look like if we had a good engineer here? Versus
we can look at that. The chief just pointed out part of that cost is reimbursed, but it'd be reimbursed if we had an engineer in-house too. So we can look at that.
So, and then the other thing that we had looked at in the past is also job sharing with other city engineers that are close by and/or county engineers. So, come January, I'm sure that's going to be a great subject to talk about. All right, Councilmember Barry, Linda Draper.
Yeah, I attended the HEAP committee meeting, and the upshot of that was that we don't really have...
Is your microphone on? Sorry.
Oh, I think it's off. Sorry. The upshot of the HEAP meeting was that individuals, I believe Larry Hayden of the Hope Center and Steve and Annie Terry of the Rescue Mission, and what's the other one? Anyway. No, it's a third, but anyway.
Elijah House.
Elijah House.
Maybe that. At any rate, they are applying for individual amounts of money for the HEAP grant from the state. And so the city will assist them with the writing of their grants, etc. But we are not going to be overtly applying as a city. So that was the upshot of that. And at the SBF Steering Committee meeting, Gary Emberlin, Marcia Carter, and I were there. Luckily, the three of us made up a quorum. We missed the mayor and Councilman Thompson, but we managed to get things done. So that was it.
Yeah, I think there was some confusion. It got canceled in my calendar, or something happened.
Got canceled in mine as well. There was some appointments. There was some meetings that were scheduled and canceled, so it wasn't clear. Otherwise, I would have happily been there.
Councilmember Del Rosario?
I attended the Just a minute, I'm sorry, lost my page here. The big band concert, and I'm trying to find the date, it was just the other night. A celebration for the Hope on Wheels, Haven of Hope on Wheels. And I also attended the dedication of the Ishii mural. I think you attended that also, Mayor, and you spoke there. That was it.
Janet?
I also attended the, what date was that? It seems like the dates are they just run together. Yeah. But it was an excellent event. Sunday, it was a fundraiser. Sunday, thank you, August 4th, for the November 4th. Haven of Hope on Wheels. It was interesting. I had a conversation with the lead of the Paradise Band group, and he said that he happened to see the article in the Mercury Enterprise regarding this project, and he said, as a person who is faith-based, how could he not volunteer their services to help fundraise for this very important project in town? I also attended the African American Historical Society. It was its annual legacy and a celebratory event of families in the African American sector that have done great things in the past and are still moving forward as community icons.
For those of you who missed the big band event, that I heard the best rendition of Bugle Boy since I heard it in the 50s.
They were good.
Councilmember Draper, are you still in the queue?
Oh, I think it's still on.
So I had the privilege of helping judge the Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year for our area, and it includes the greater northern region of our valley, and is Paradise, Chico, and Oroville, and I think Biggs and Gridley, yes. Our very own Joseph Huggins won, and he is from our Oroville Boys and Girls Club. So I just want to reach out to Joseph, and he did an outstanding job. All of them did a great job, and we had the nice thing about being part of this project is it's amazing the quality of the judges that they're able to pull together for this. And that the students and the families get to meet the judges one-on-one. I certainly was like the least of them there. I believe that, you had the professor of the university and the president, and it was just, so we all get to have our pictures taken with Joseph. So he, our Oroville Youth of the Year. Thank you. And one of the other things that, you get to do as the mayor, I got to put my little name on the Oroville Quilt Guide, our Quilt Guild. They had beautiful quilts this weekend, or the past weekend, at the municipal auditorium, and it certainly is something that you should see. I took my grandkids and tried to get them interested in sewing. But with that said, of course, you always get a little vacation, spend time with grandkids. Anybody else? Okay, administration reports. Anybody? Chief?
Madam Mayor, if I could, I'd like to give 30 seconds of my time to Mr. Murphy. He'd like to make a real quick announcement regarding Feather River Parks and Recreation District.
Thank you. I want to announce, a lot of you already know this, but Chair Vicki Smith has resigned our board effective the end of October. So anybody who lives in the district and is a registered voter is eligible to apply. The applications consist basically of a letter of interest and a resume to me by November 21st, so basically 2 weeks from now.
to my address at the district. You can also email it to me if you'd rather, randy@frrpd.com. And the following Tuesday, the 27th, 3 weeks from tonight, the board will make a selection on who will fill that position through the end of the term 2 years from now.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Randy.
Madam Mayor, if I could, just future council meetings on the next council meeting is scheduled to be 2 days before Thanksgiving. I was going to inquire of the council if you're interested in having that meeting, or if you would like to push that meeting off and have our postpone until the next meeting in December because of the holiday that is 2 days after that.
Well, according to Art, we should always have a meeting because it's city business. But maybe just this one time.
I agree with Councilman Hatley. We should be here.
What's the pleasure of the council?
I'm fine with the meeting.
I'm fine with the meeting as well.
I'm good. We'll keep it short.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, is correspondence. There's a letter of resignation from Commissioner McDavid. Administration reports. Mr. Huber, you have anything? Mr. Tom? Okay.
Madam Mayor, just following up on that, on November 20th, since it was talked about and inquired, I actually will be out of town. I will have someone here in my place who you've seen before. Very likely Dave Ritchie, but
okay.
We'll see. I'm trying to firm that up.
Is this the same gentleman that you sent the last time?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Nope.
Thank you.
And Ruth has something she wants to share.
I was just going to ask the council how many minutes you wanted me to spend putting you to sleep with talking about the audit.
Stop.
But I see we're at 7 o'clock, so I'm good.
Okay, all right. Okay, we got through the rest of the agenda. Now we're moving on. It's past 7 o'clock. It's public hearing, item number 12. Authorize the issuance of bonds for the Oroville Hospital. Council will consider the issuance of revenue bonds for Oroville City Hospital. Is there a staff report on this? You do it. You do it.
Happy to do it. Madam Mayor and council members, this is as we've done previously, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the hospital is expanding. One of the ways in which hospitals can be funded is by using the city or a public agency as a conduit to obtain a lower interest rate. These are essentially, while it is a private entity, these are essentially public benefit services that are being offered there. And so that's why there is a conduit or a vehicle which allows these private entities to essentially obtain what really are government-funded bonds, and they have to be authorized and issued by a public agency. I'm going to lead with this because I know this is one of the questions that will be asked. If these bonds are issued, and if there is a default on these bonds, which I know there won't be, but if there is, the city has no liability for the repayment of these bonds. It is simply you are acting as a pipeline or a conduit to allow the hospital to access what is essentially public bonding purposes, accessing those funds. It does give the benefit of, if I'm stepping out of line, correct me, it does give the benefit to the hospital of lower interest rates, generally speaking, but that is in exchange for what is a public benefit, which is when people are sick, they go to the hospital. So if I haven't bored you to death already, that's essentially it. This is they are asking for an amount of funds, I think, was it
$285 million.
$285 million. That does not mean that they are going to spend all $285 million, but it gives them up to that amount. This is, again, a public hearing, so I would obviously request that the mayor open the public hearing with or without the gavel if you like, but with if you want it, and request for any public comment. But individuals from the financing arm, and Mr. Wentz is here from the hospital as well, if you have any questions.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, item number 12, which everybody has been waiting patiently for this evening. Item number 12 is now open for public hearing. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on item number 12? Seeing none? Seeing none? Public hearing is closed. Looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Or,
Is
excuse
there a
me,
comment?
motion or discussion and motion? Okay.
Okay, all right. I move that we adopt resolution number 8757 to authorize the issuance of one or more series of revenue bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $285 million to finance and refinance the acquisition, construction, improvement, renovation, and or equipping of healthcare facilities owned and or operated by Oroville Hospital, and also adopt resolution number 8758, which is required by section 147F of the IRS Code, approving issuance by the city of Oroville of revenue bonds for the benefit of Oroville Hospital in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $285 million.
Second.
Okay.
Voting's open. All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
Motion carries.
All righty.
And may none of you need their services, but they're there just in case.
All right. So guess what? This meeting is adjourned. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, November 20th at 5:30 p.m.
Long time coming. Thank you for your patience.
Yes. Yes.